was the fall of 1968, and Paul McCartney had an epiphany. He was 26 years old at the time, and it had been 12 years since his mother had passed away. And his mother's passing was a very traumatic experience for Paul. He was greatly affected by it, and after her passing, he devoted himself to music. He poured himself into it with tremendous energy. It was almost an obsession. He was compelled to do this. 12 years later, the Beatles had formed. He had formed a very strong bond with John Lennon at the time, who had lost his mother when he was 17. But on this fall evening in 1968, Paul was in a very dark place. He had achieved tremendous success with the Beatles. They had all the money that they could ever want or what they ever needed. He'd fallen into drug use, a lot of alcohol, very little sleep. And one night, in a state of perhaps sleep, I don't know where sleep ends and passing out begins, but he was in this state and he had a vision. This was this epiphany. And in this vision, his mother came to him and she told him to back off. You don't need to do all of this. Let it be. Just let it be. And so a few days later, he began to work on that song, and he created Let It Be. In an article that was written several years later, he wrote, "It was really like she had visited me at this very difficult point in my life, and she gave me this message: be gentle, don't fight things. Just try and go with the flow, and it will all work out. Let it be." Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming out on this beautiful Alaskan spring day. Oh my goodness, isn't it a big old high centered right over, I think it's right over this center here today. And it covers pretty much the whole state. So thank you for being here. And for those of you who are probably out enjoying it now and going to watch it on YouTube later, thank you for watching as well, and welcome to the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. The title of my talk today is Go Within, but it might as well have been Let It Be. Never doubt that Spirit has a sense of humor. I think I have had 3 song requests since I've been the senior minister over 5 years. So we're about 1 every 2 years. I feel compelled that, to suggest a song. Jenna's the expert. If you don't do something well, you get somebody that does. And she's quite accomplished, so I'm very comfortable letting her do that. So wouldn't you know, the day that Jenna has her baby, Anna's in the lower 48, so we don't have the slides, we don't have anything else. I get the urge to do Let It Be. And it came from last week when we had Let It Be last week. But that was so profound because that's really an important message. So the Cliff Notes versions, for those of you who just want to listen and get this and you can go to sleep for the rest of the time, is this: that when we slow down, just like Paul McCartney's mother said, when we slow down and we can go within and connect with our higher power, whatever you choose to call it, and we can make that connection with Spirit, then we don't have to do all of everything all the time. Yeah, we have to make the initial steps. We have to do the things. We have to give Spirit the opportunity to succeed. But when we do that, the road is much easier. And Spirit is with us. That infinite in presence, that infinite intelligence, the divine creative force is working through us. And it makes everything so much easier. And that's the Cliff Notes version of the talk today. My 3 points today: first, I'm going to talk about know thyself. Secondly, I'm going to talk a little bit about trust or faith. And then I'm going to suggest a couple of spiritual practices that we might use to help to get to that place. We start off with know thyself. That phrase was written over the entrance to the temple of Apollo at the Greek Delphi. Exactly what does that mean, know thyself? Socrates used that many, many times, and I think he distilled it down a little bit a little later. Socrates wrote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And I think the meaning there is that when we can go within and we can examine our own lives, inside we can discover that we have that spark of the divine within each and every one of us. And when we recognize that spark, then we can move into that flow. And it's not unique to Christianity or to Western culture. The same type of thing has been expressed in many different places on the globe at many different times. Lao Tzu wrote, "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." Psalm 46 has an interesting quote, and it says, "Be still and know that I am God." Well, that has traditionally been taken from the standpoint of a God out here or up there, speaking down to us peons down below, and be still and recognize that I'm the man. But if we put a different spin on that, if we look at that a little bit differently, that has a different and a much more profound meaning. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and recognize that we all have a spark of divinity within us. Our good friend Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a poem. The title of it is Note Seton. And that is and my Greek is not good, is translated would be know thyself. Gnothe, translated from Gnosticism or knowledge, and Satan is thyself. In 1831, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a poem, he called it Know Thyself, that's our translation, on the theme of God in Thee. The poem was an anthem to Emerson's belief that to know thyself meant knowing the God which Emerson felt existed within each person. So if we can follow Emerson's lead, we can do that to recognize the indwelling God. And it reminds me somewhat of a story of family, a lady. She had 3 sons. They grew up and had gone out on their own, and they were all extremely successful. But this lady was really grounded in knowing herself, and her sons knew that. Well, she had a milestone birthday coming up, the really important birthday, and the sons, even though they were all independently successful in their own way, there was still some of that sibling rivalry, and sometimes they tried to outdo one another, and there might have been a little bit of that going on with this milestone birthday of hers coming up. So one of the sons went out and got her a really, really fancy car. I mean, this thing was a powerful sports car. It was really, really nice. You know, that German engineering. It was just the best. Well, another son, not to be outdone, he decided to build her a house. So he built her this enormous house, this beautiful house in an exclusive neighborhood, gated community, had fireplaces in every bedroom. This thing was just really this beautiful house. Well, the third son, he wasn't going to be outdone either. So he said, well, I got her a talking parrot. I got her a parrot. You know how much she loves the scriptures and loves this parrot can recite the entire Bible. Oh. Now you can see this is fraught with there. So a couple weeks later, when the boys got together on a call with her, and, well, Mom, how did your birthday go? How did you like it? And she said, well, to tell you the truth, she says, that car you got me, it's nice and everything, but it's too small, and it's too fast, and it's too powerful. I really don't like it very much. Oh, he was kind of down. She says, that house, that's too big. And I'm rattling around in there. I feel like a billiard ball on an empty table. I just bounce around from room. It's too big for me. I don't like it. But she said that third one, oh, what a great gift that was. She said that chicken you got me was delicious. See, she knew within. She know thyself. For those of you that are watching on YouTube and you don't have the microphone, those were groans and boos in the background.
That was a
Okay, point number 2. Trust, or you can think of it in terms of faith. Are you living a life of trust, or are you frustrated, anxious, and fearful part of the time? Do you find yourself trying to manipulate situations and people? When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. I think it's important for us to recognize what trust really is. Random House Dictionary defines it as certainty, or a strong faith or a belief in an outcome that something is going to happen. But sometimes I think we can get a better definition if we look at what the opposite of something is. The opposite of trust is fear. And when we are operating and when we are living our lives from a point of fear, it's impossible to be in a place where we can allow the divine current to sweep us along and make life easier for us when we are constantly in fear. Ernest Holmes, in Living the Science of Mind, wrote, the way to get rid of fear is through cultivation of faith, a faith founded on the thought that God is all there is. What a concept. If this infinite presence, the divine creative force, has made all of everything, including each and every one of us here in this room, and this divine essence, this higher power, is perfect in every way, and it doesn't make any mistakes, that means you're not a mistake. That means that you have perfection within you, that you have divine DNA within you. And every other being does as well. For it's those of us that we judge that are less than, that we judge that are not the same race as we are, not the same political affiliation, not the same anything as we are, that spark of divine is within them as well. God is within each and every one of us. Holmes was genius. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. I don't think I ever remember a time when our nation, our state, our globe has been so divided, so parted. And the message that Paul McCartney's mother gave him, for though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. I loved our sacred reading this morning. I'm going to go back to a line in that. I am not surrendering to anything outside of myself. I am leaning into my own soul's knowing. I'm giving up my need for any external validation, plaudits, or commendations. Rather, I am embracing the fullness of life expressing through me. Emerson talked about get our bloated nothingness out of the way. And I think what he's talking about is get that bloated nothingness out of the way and allow the divine current to flow through us. I know a man who is not in our congregation, not in New Thought at all, but these principles work. You don't have to be a religious scientist or, Centers for Spiritual Living or anything else. These principles work regardless of who's doing it. Electricity works. It doesn't, you don't have to be Benjamin Franklin. Electricity is going to work anyway. And these principles, these things are the same. So this is just an example of how this can work. But this gentleman got an idea to build a trail. And it's right in my neighborhood, right behind Sea Chant Circle. There is a green belt, and it's been there since a long time, since before we moved there, and that was in '81. So what is that? 38 years. And it's never been used. I think the kids go back there and play some. It's all overgrown, and there's brush, and and he got this idea to build a trail there. So he kind of started doing some little exploration, and he went to, start off with Parks and Rec and says, how do I go about doing this? And they gave him a list of things, and that's pretty intimidating. It was, well, this really isn't parkland. It's not Parks and Rec. Yes, it's municipal, but it is part of this green belt, and, you'd have to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And so number one was to go to the community council meeting. So he went to the community council and went to the wrong one, thinking it'd be Rabbit Creek, but it's not. It's Huffman O'Malley. So he had to go to a second council meeting and kind of teed up the idea. And everybody says, yeah, it's a great idea, but it's not going to happen, But he didn't know. He didn't know that he couldn't do it. And so he just started looking at things. How are we going to do this? Number one, the city is not going to pay for this. Right now, I'll tell you, our city is not going to be spending money on a trail from Rabbit Creek Elementary to South High. Our government, our city has a lot of other more important things to spend money on. But maybe people can pitch in and do some work on their own and at least clean out some of the brush and improve it a little bit. So he started talking to neighbors and things, and most of the people were really in favor of it. They thought it would be a great idea, but there were some that were really opposed. But then things just started to fall into place. Now we don't have any money. But then somebody came up and says, well, we've got these things called challenge grants, and the Rasmussen Foundation will match the money if you do this and this and this. And this and this and this all fell directly right into place. And things like, well, how much we would put down some gravel in this trail? Well, I don't know, let's go to Anchorage Sand and Gravel and get a bid. So they came and they gave him a price. He says, God, is there any way you guys could do sort of a brother-in-law deal for us because we're trying to be doing that? And they said, yeah, we've got a deal where, we'll donate up to this X amount. And what it came to be was Anchorage Sand and Gravel would donate almost a quarter of what it would take for the gravel, and they just donate it. And that donation would count against the challenge grant, and if it's approved by Rasmussen, would be matched by Rasmussen. So he's starting to get some things there. And then the people who donate their time, that would all count toward the challenge grant. All of these things start adding up. So he started kind of planning and look and see how it might be. Well, it's continued on. I won't bore you with all the details, but every single piece came into place. They're going to come up with enough gravel. They found that you don't need to have military spec gravel to do this. You can use a slightly lower grade gravel. It's actually a byproduct when they make the military spec gravel for this, and that is better for trails. It's far less expensive because they've kind of got to get rid of it doing something, and they found out you only need half as much. So his quarter of a donation doubled because he's only using half as deep. It's only 6 inches instead of 12 inches deep, and it's half the price. So now he's got all the gravel to do the entire 2.5 miles. Every little thing just seems to fall in place like that. And the people that were opposed to it, once they found out, it's not going to be that obtrusive. Average width of this thing, green belt, is over 28 feet. well, how do we don't want a big trail going through the middle. I only need this table's width, 8 feet through the middle, and that's going to give me a 6 foot wide path, 3 on each side, so bicycles can pass each other, and you got a foot to spare on each side. And we're not going to take out any trees. We're not going to do anything. We're going to take out some of the brush. We're going to clean it up a little bit. Have almost 100% united citizen support of it now. Hasn't happened yet, but I have this feeling that this guy has stepped up and placed himself in just the right place to get that divine assistance in getting it done. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. I know that until I read a little bit more and learned, I thought Mother Mary he was referring to was Mary, mother of Jesus. Paul McCartney's mother was Mary. Mother Mary, come to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. There's still a light that shines on me. Okay, we have this concept now that when we can get our ego and all of this world of effect out of the way and we can go within and recognize the indwelling God, that infinite intelligence that resides within each of us is there helping us along the way. How do we go about cultivating that? And of course, my answer to any of these things is our spiritual practices. And I'm going to start off with one. It's called meditation. And we teach a class in meditation, and it's a good, fun class. And we have everything from laughing meditation to you name it, walking meditation. But when we can go into that place where we can empty our mind of all of the effects, and it doesn't make any difference, you can have potato peeling meditation. You can have, but when you can empty your mind and you can go on autopilot, you can go into that place, then you can connect with that. And meditation is a great way to make that connection. But another one that we do, and we talked a little bit about it, is visioning. And in prayer, I think of prayer is like talking with the divine. It is connecting with that infinite presence that's within each and every one of us. But visioning is listening. Visioning is listening to that presence. And so we start off with meditation and we get quiet and we just empty our minds of everything. And then we gently ask 4 or 5 questions and just see what pops up. And we allow that presence to come into our awareness, into our consciousness. And in that stillness, we get answers. The most powerful example that I have ever seen, and this rocked me when it did, the power of visioning. Back in 2003, I was on the National Vision Corps, and the headquarters at that time was in Los Angeles. And the first meeting that I went to, the first question that they posed was, what's Spirit's highest ideal for our new spiritual home? And so I'm doing my best, a little guy in Alaska, and I kind of got quiet. But boy, I tell you, it came. And I saw peaks, I saw mountains, I saw snow-capped peaks in the distance, and it was really clear. At the end of the visioning process, we do a thing called harvest, and everybody kind of reports what sort of came to them while you were in this quiet state. And I said, mountain peaks, snow-capped peaks. And there were like 3 other people on this call that said, I got snow-capped peaks. Well, we visioned on that every month for about 3 or 4 months, and every month I saw snow-capped peaks. I don't remember visioning on it again or later, but I know that the choices came down, and the choices came, and I'm going to say, because they were all D's, I think it was Dallas, Denver, Des Moines. I don't know what the third one was, but it was Dallas and Denver. I remember two of them were, and which happened to be the home of some of our largest centers, Mile High, where they had 8,000 members. That's not a small church, small center. I didn't think too much more about it. Time goes by, don't know what happens. And I end up in ministerial school. And part of the deal, I went to the Denver campus. We went up to the headquarters in Golden. And we're supposed to meet all the muckety-mucks, and I don't know what it was. We're supposed to go be good kids. So we went to the headquarters in Golden. I was on my best behavior, and we're on a little tour, and we walked into Ken Gordon's office. And I walked into Ken Gordon's office, and he's got these two big old picture windows, and they're looking back out over the Continental Divide. And I looked at it, and whoa, look at that, I'm getting all goose flesh. There it was. The exact picture. It was the peaks in the distance, snow-capped peaks in the distance. The exact thing that I had seen a dozen years earlier. Visioning is a powerful tool. It's not to be confused with visualization, which is another thing that we do, another spiritual practice that we do often when we do that in terms of prayer and spiritual mind treatment, is we visualize. We have a mental equivalent of what it is that we're looking for. If we don't, if we can't define to spirit is what our desire is, it's kind of tough for the universe to respond, and that visualization allows us to do that. And visioning is not visualization, because it can come out, it can be anything. We get some of the craziest things. What last month did we have? It was monsters and dragons or something. I don't know. Elephants, yes.
For the library.
For the library. I remember when we had Annabelle.
Yeah.
I had to follow Annabelle shoveling. So, our conclusion, what I want you to take away today. I'm going to conclude with, and I think it is part of, maybe it is the rest of our sacred reading. That was such a powerful reading. And this kind of captures a lot of it. So what I want you to take away: I welcome the stillness of mind that invites the beloved to whisper in my ear and remind me of my soul's longing. I relish the delight of a deep knowing that moves through every cell and fiber of my being to remind me that I am called to give up me and embrace the I am within me. I surrender to the innermost God and thereby let myself become God's will expressing. And so it is with this awareness of God's will expressing through each and every one of us that I invite my colleagues, the practitioners, to join me in prayer, to join me in consciousness and holding our congregation in absolute love and light, knowing that as we go through this thing called life, doesn't mean that when we go within and we allow Spirit to express through us, that we have no problems. Because these are the effects, these are the outpicturing of our lives. But what it means is that we can now handle them. We're not a victim, we are a victor. We are not victim to our circumstances, we are victorious over our circumstances. And it applies to every aspect of our lives, whether it be our health. We absolutely know that even though we may have a disease, we may have a condition, we may have a broken leg, But that within each and every one of us, there is a powerful knowingness that knows what a perfect health really is. There is an intelligence that knows what the leg is supposed to be. There is an intelligence that knows what perfection is. And it is that knowingness, it is that infinite intelligence that we embrace in this moment. Knowing for anyone who is experiencing a health condition, we just absolutely know that behind that condition there is perfection. And I speak my word for those who are experiencing lack and limitation and less than. We know that we live in an abundant universe, in a universe that is so vast. We can't even begin to count the number of galaxies, let alone the numbers of stars within each galaxy. Infinite, greater than the number of the grains of sand on all the beaches of the world added together. And all of that is conspiring for us. We live in an abundant universe. And lastly, I'm speaking my word for those who now are experiencing separation. The appearance of separation, the appearance of being separate from God, separate from our fellow man. We just simply know that as expressions of God, we can never be separate from God because God is within each and every one of us. And we can never be separate from our fellow man because each and every one of us are expressions of that Most High. And we may have disagreements, and in the world of effects, we may have all kinds of things. But when we scrape all that away, we are human beings. We are all part of the race, the human race, and we are all deeply connected. We are one. And we can let all of that other stuff fall aside and just simply rest in the knowledge that the God within is the God within each and every one of us, regardless of any other effect or any other condition. So we just give thanks. We give thanks for perfect health. We give thanks for prosperity and abundance. And we give thanks for the very love of God. And now we can embrace that and just get our bloated nothingness out of the way, knowing that within us, that infinite presence, that divine creativity is allowing it to go. And we just step back. We let it go. Let it be. And so it is.
So it is.